Hey, you. I was thinking about you. And you know what I was thinking? I was thinking it's time for you to soar. Welcome to today's episode of It's Time to Soar podcast, Getting Unstuck with me, Coach Katina. And today, our guest, Dr. Charity Hughes, is going to talk to us about getting unstuck by getting out of our own way. I said it. We are a lot of times the biggest boulder, the biggest thing or obstacle that's in our way. And today, our guest is going to help enlighten us. Dr. Charity Hughes is the Senior Vice President of Talent Management for Sellers Dorsey and Associates, one of the top healthcare consulting firms in the nation. They partner with states, providers, health plans, and other stakeholders to strengthen the critical safety net system and enhance healthcare access, quality, and outcomes for the country's most vulnerable populations. She's been instrumental in building a best-in-class HR function that has become a true business enabler for the organization. Now, she's the former Chief Talent Officer for Mastery Charter Schools, a nonprofit network of 24 public schools serving 14,500 students in Philadelphia, PA, and Camden, New Jersey. On the side, yeah, that's right, in her free time, whatever that looks like, she's a professional certified coach, DEI practitioner, and HR consultant who works with organizations and leaders in their quest to improve their leadership capability. I cannot wait to dig into this very real, very honest, and very relevant conversation with Dr. Charity Hughes. Let's bring her to the stage. Hello, Dr. Hughes. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I am well, and I am so grateful that you are here with us talking to our audience about from stuck to soaring.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. So one, thank you for the invitation. I'm delighted to be with you and your listeners. And I think it's such a wonderful topic to get into because, we often do get in our own way. And sometimes we don't know how to get ourselves unstuck.
So just talk to me. Like, we're going to talk about like what that looks like. We're going to uncover how leaders can get out of their own way. But the fact that people don't even realize that they're in their own way, what does that even look like?
Oh my goodness. It is the lack of self-awareness. And I deal with leaders all the time, and I work with them and I partner with them, and I try to help them understand that the most effective leaders that I've ever seen, or I think that anyone knows, are the leaders that have a high sense of self-awareness, that know what their challenges are, know what they're really great at, and know how to bridge the gap. Whether it's tapping into other people to help bridge the gap, whether it's learning themselves. But self-awareness is the most critical thing and most critical success factor that a leader can develop.
So self-awareness, we've talked about that. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and a lot of times I'm surprised that I'm like, you got this far and nobody's told you. Mm-hmm. and you can't, there's sometimes you want to like scream like and say, look at this mirror, but you can't. And so there are a couple of things that I've seen that have kind of hindered people, like perfectionism.
Yes.
Not. And crossing every T, dotting every I, micromanagement.
Yes.
Imposter syndrome, resistance to feedback. What instances, where have you seen this play a role in somebody's own stuckness?
All of them. Every last one of them I've seen. I would say one of the ones that's probably the most challenging is perfectionism. Because to your point, I think perfectionism can manifest itself in so many ways. Mm-hmm. Yes, it can start to manifest as microaggression. It can start to manifest as micromanaging. It can manifest itself in timeliness. Like when you have this mindset of perfectionism, it takes time to get it the way you think it's actually perfect. So then it never happens. So we spend our wheels in procrastination because there's going to be something else that I need to do to it to make it more perfect. So it never gets done.
So here I am. I'm struggling maybe with that, and I am trying to get it done, and deadlines are being missed. You said something that the other side of it, how that feels to the
Yes.
rest of the team, the microaggressions. What does that look like? The microaggressions or other symptoms that happen to the people that are on the other side?
So at the root of perfectionism oftentimes is control. Because the idea is if it has to be perfect, then you are saying to yourself, there's only one way for it to be right. And if there's only one way for it to be right, you close down or shut down the opportunity for others to really contribute in their full selves because you've decided in your mind what the outcome should actually look like. And if it doesn't align to what your perception of perfection is, you won't consider it. So then the outcome for the rest of the team is feeling like they're not being heard, they're not being valued, you're not going to listen to me, I have to do it your way, even though I've seen it done a different way, or I would approach it differently. You miss the opportunity for innovation.
That part. And one of the chapters in my book, It's Time to Soar, is being stuck on being right. and that is exactly it. And for myself, I didn't realize that I was stuck on being right, that I had to be right. And I didn't know, believe it or not, that the root of because I had to search the root and identify where it came from and go back and tell the truth to the lie that was at the very base of my control and my having to have it right was at Penn State.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And so I'm there on academic scholarship, but I'm in the science track. And my lab partners, they made a couple of statements implying that I was there because I was brown and because I was female. And while I agree, and that's a whole other conversation, that in order to make sure that it is equitable, there ought to be space to make sure everybody gets the same opportunity. I was there on an academic scholarship, but they did not take my answers. They excluded me from the group, and we got lower grades because I kept my answers and I showed it to the professor, because after a while there was a trend and I was getting the answers right, but it wasn't part of our group analysis. It wasn't part of our group presentation. And so I developed this thing where I felt like I always needed to defend my opinion and I always needed to be right.
So there's a quote, I'm not sure who it's from, but it says, when we limit who can contribute, we limit the problems we can solve.
And what does that translate to the business? The bottom line, you've stifled, you've taken the air out of a room. You already said it. People don't want to speak up. And now we're not getting innovation. Your competitors are beating you.
And you're wondering why you're stuck. You're wondering why I can't solve this problem. You're wondering why I keep returning back to the same issue. It is absolutely because of that.
And that's just one. That's just perfectionism. That's
absolutely.
One.
Absolutely. So it's funny because I want to build on something you said in terms of, the whole idea of perfectionism and having to be right. I can remember this was years ago, probably, I'm going to say probably about 10 years ago. I was working at another organization. We were going through a global restructuring, and we were riffing some positions. So we were eliminating some jobs, which meant certain people had to then apply for a job because we might have had two people in a similar role. There's only one role, so both people have to apply. And there was one person who was going to apply for the role. And I was working with our president at the time. And this individual kind of had a reputation. And it wasn't the most positive reputation. This was a person who was about perfectionism and I know what's best type of mindset. And a lot of her stakeholders did not really want to work with her. And I can remember when we were about to interview her, he looks at me and he says, there's a question I want to ask. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be, but I need you to partner with me. And this is what I want to ask her. What's more important, to be right or to be effective? And so many times we get stuck because we are focused on being right as opposed to focusing on being effective.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Focused on being right versus focused on being effective.
Absolutely. And then what happened when we asked the question, The response was, well, being right, of course. And in the moment, we just looked at each other and we were just like, you're missing the entire point. There are so many people that are right, and no one will ever know the extent of their accuracy because of how they present it or how they don't present it. They're not effective. And when you can focus more on being effective, which means how can I bring people in as opposed to pushing people away, that is when you're able to actually solve problems. And that's when you're able to get yourself unstuck.
So I want to know, were you able to get them to see that they were stuck? And what did
No,
that process look like? No.
no,
And
because
that's
that
that's
gets
a
back to
challenge.
self-awareness. And you can't get to self-awareness unless you're willing to look at your blind spots, unless you're willing to see what others are telling you about yourself, unless you're willing to at least explore that there could be another truth that you have not yet embraced.
So I want to take a minute and ask the listeners, have any of you been in a space where you had blind spots, or you rejected feedback, or you just couldn't read it? What did it feel like when you had your aha moment? Type that in. That those of you that are watching, type that in the comments. What did it feel like when you had your aha moment? And to piggyback on that, what did it take to get you there? I know I'm going to use this as an example. Um, I know that some people have said, when I saw a picture of myself, um, I looked in somebody's camera, then I knew, oh, my makeup was off, or oh, I need to not wear that outfit, or oh, I need to, like, when
Mhm.
I got an image and I knew I needed to make some changes, whatever those changes were. What did it take you, listeners, for you to really be open to that kind of feedback and become self-aware? Just type that in. And Dr. Fisher, you talked to me about, you said that person never figured it out. They never got it. Are there those that you've seen get the aha moment and be able to pivot?
Oh, yes. And that's the beauty of the work that we do. When you do get to see somebody who is willing to look at themselves full-heartedly, recognize an opportunity for growth, and then lean into that growth. There was somebody I was working with. I was doing an assessment debrief with them. And we were talking about a blind spot. And one of the things that I love, one of the exercises I love doing, particularly around emotional intelligence, because you talked about that, because a lot of people sometimes don't know what their triggers are until they're triggered. And I do this exercise where I ask people to do three things: to find someone that they're really, really close to, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a child, whether it's a parent, whether it's a best friend, and ask them three questions. When have you seen me the angriest? When have you seen me the happiest? And when have you seen me the saddest? Because those are the times that typically our emotions can take us out of our normal response mode, our normal reaction. And that gives us an opportunity to see ourselves or to learn about ourselves from a different lens.
Mhm.
When someone else is mirroring back to us what they've experienced from us when we have been the happiest, the saddest, or the angriest. And I can remember I was doing this kind of this debrief with someone, and they told me, I have a group of friends that I've been friends with since childhood. And this was an older woman. And she said, this was my last week. This was my weekend, last weekend, where we all kind of get together. We do it every year. We get together. And she said, and after we got together, one of my friends, or a couple of my friends, told me something about myself that I had never knew. And I said, okay, we'll say more. And she said, they told me that my whole disposition changes when I stand in line. And I said, I'm curious. Let's dig into that a little deeper. And she said, yeah, they told me that when I stand in line, because I'm normally, a mild-mannered person, I don't really get upset. I don't necessarily, get really emotional. But they said they notice when I stand in line that I get incredibly aggressive, almost downright mean, and my whole demeanor changes. And so I
Mhm.
said, well, talk to me. Where do you think that comes from? What's that about? And she said, well, you know what? I tried to spend the whole weekend unpacking it. And she said, I realized, and like I said, this was an older woman. She said, I realized something about myself. I was in Jim Crow South and I helped to desegregate my school. So I was one of the first women of color or girls of color at the time that went to my school. And when I was a kid, there was this little white boy that I liked. And I can remember one day standing in line and I saw him coming my way. And when I saw him coming my way, I kind of tensed up because I was excited. I didn't know what he was going to say to me and I was anxious. And he came over and he didn't say anything to me. He just butt in front of me, ignored me, and started talking to everybody else. And she said, and it broke me. But I never told my parents about it. She said, I actually think that I forgot about it in some ways, but it hit me at my core. And when I started to unpack that, I realized that that was a childhood trauma that I never dealt with. And how that has come out as an adult is now I know through other people telling me that my behavior now changes when I get in line. So my response was, now what do you want to do with that?
That's the part. I'm so glad you said that. I love that exercise. And I use a similar exercise as well. But the people that don't move forward are the ones that stop at, oh, I'm triggered and this is how I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I challenge that this is me. When they say, well, this is me, I'm triggered and this is me. Is it you, or is this just the behavior that you've learned, that you've practiced? And then I have to ask, so what is the impact of that behavior
Yeah.
on everyone around you?
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
if they care,
Right.
they really do the work, then we're going to move forward. And I'm gonna ask some of you: have you been challenged to have you gotten feedback? If you know this is the era of I'm sipping my tea, I'm not really providing feedback. I'm staying in my lane. I'm moving in silence. No. Have you gotten feedback that you might not like, you did not realize that could be a blind spot? And if so, are you willing to dig into that? Are you willing to unpack it? And if you are, I want you to start visualizing, what if I can change that thing that I didn't know I was doing? Everybody else seems to know.
Mm.
What are the results? Can you dream with us real quick about what that could look like? Just type it in the comments. And those of you who are listening, you can say it to yourself, say it out loud. You can do the work with us. We'd love to hear it. Dr. Hughes, talk to me about, okay, you've got this person that they see a blind spot, you see it, and you're working through the process. Now they see it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about the one that now they really want to do something about it.
Yeah.
What's that work look like?
I think it's different for everyone, and it has to be tied to the trigger.
Yep.
So the follow-up to my question, what do you want to do with that? That became an action plan for her. And it was, well, you know what? I want to be more conscious of my body language, of my facial expression, of how I'm feeling when I'm standing in line. Because if I'm more conscious, then I can prepare myself. If I'm more conscious, I can show up the way I really want to show up without it being a reaction,
Mm.
but it can be an actual response. It can be intentional. So I said, okay, so let's do that. It sounds like an action plan for me. It sounds like an action plan for you. So when do you want to start that? Well, I really want to start it immediately. Okay. When can you test it? So then that becomes the follow-up to say, okay, are you really being aware of what happens with you thematically, like in your body, everything, when you are in the midst of standing in line? And oh, God forbid, someone does butt in front of you. How are you going to respond in that moment?
Love that. Love that. So, how do you respond in the face of your trigger now that you are self aware?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you figured it out on your own or
Mm-hmm.
you got feedback. And now, what are you going to do about it? What are you willing to do about it? So we've got leaders. We've all had that leader that was not self aware.
Yeah.
Um, we've all had that leader that was in their own way.
Mm.
What do you do as a team member that has a leader that's in their own way?
That's when curiosity becomes so critical. I've even been in that situation before where I'm a team member and it seems like the leader is not self-aware, and is either a perfectionist, or I'm feeling a little bit of microaggression, or I'm feeling even micromanagement or what have you.
Mm.
One of the things that I've done is I've been honest and curious at the same time. So that takes courage. It takes courage, but you have to name the thing. Like, if there's an elephant in the room, why are you going to just let the elephant stay in the room without everyone acknowledging, because we see the same elephant? So I had to say to the individual, I'm noticing a little bit of tension and I want to understand it. Is there something that you need that I'm not giving you? Or is there something I'm doing that you don't agree with? Help me understand what's happening.
Courageous conversations.
Absolutely.
I've had to coach clients on building up the courage to have the courageous conversation. And if they're dealing with the imposter syndrome, that coupled with a leader that is not self-aware and they are constantly under microaggressions, we've got to stop that. We've got to stop stop the backward. It's like they're backing up and shrinking further and further. And so you've got to address it. And sometimes addressing it with somebody. Yes, if you really want to get unstuck. And you mentioned the courage. Sometimes it's a process just to get them to the courage.
It is a process. And I think underneath that courage is often a feeling of, I just don't know how to do it well.
Yeah.
So sometimes it becomes role play. It becomes practice. It becomes, if you're willing to step into the courage, I can support your growth and process.
Absolutely.
But you have to have the willing spirit, mind, and heart. So if you can demonstrate the willingness, I can support you in developing the skill set and the muscle to do this in a way that might be more effective.
That's so good. So somebody listening, you've got to have a courageous conversation, and you're willing to do it, but you don't know what that looks like. One thing I want to say is be mindful of your self-talk. And what I mean by that is when you're getting up the nerve, your self-talk can be, they're not going to listen to me anyway. They're just going to get mad. They're just going to get angry. So I might as well keep it to myself. I just want to say to you, you've got greatness on the inside of you. You've got great ideas. Even if it's not the idea we end up going with, your idea can be a catalyst. Your feedback is needed and it's necessary. And you need, if there's deep-seated trauma, you might need a therapist. If there's just a blind spot, somebody watching you, you need a friend that could be accountable. But if this thing is right in the middle where it could be behavior modification, you need a coach. Mm-hmm. I have a coach. I have multiple coaches. And I have people to give me accountability. Dr. Hughes, have you ever had a blind spot and you were in your own way and you needed either somebody to tell you? How did you see it? How did you get unstuck?
Yes. I am incredibly introverted. A lot of people don't realize that because I have no problem getting in front of a group and talking. And in my mind, that's the stage. And when I'm off the stage, then I don't want to talk anymore. But the level of my introversion was a blind spot to me until I was working for a leader who knew he wanted to promote me, but I wasn't aware. And this is when I was working for a global organization. And I was headed to a trip in Europe. And he knew the conversations he had been having behind closed doors with other leaders wanting to promote me or whatever. And his comment to me right before I left was, you're going to that meeting in Europe, right? And I said, yes. He said, I need them to know you're in the room. And I said, come again? And this is because he knew me so well. He knew the blind spot, but I didn't see it. He said, I need them to know you're in the room, because he knew I'm comfortable sitting in the back of the room and just observing and just watching all the dynamics. I don't have to say a word. I'm going to think a lot of things, but I don't have to utter anything. And he just looked at me. He said, I need them to know you're in the room. And at first it kind of hit me like, what is that about? And I paused, and then he just repeated it again. I need them to know you're in the room. And in that moment, when I reflected upon it, I was like, wow, okay, he recognizes that I'm introverted and I like to just sit back. Message taken. I have a blind spot that people may not realize that this is just my introversion. They may think that I'm not excited about it. I'm not interested in it. I don't care about it. Because oftentimes introverts come off as aloof. So when he said that, I recognized and I said, oh, he's telling me I need to show up. I took that and I was like, okay, I message received. I understand behavior modification. I will be in the room and they will know that I'm here.
And for me, I know you personally, you are a good time. You are a good time. There are things that you said to me that impacted my life when I was a junior in college. You opened your mouth and you did that little thing, and you said it, and it impacted me. There was a blind spot, and so I worked on it. And when this comes up, I think of you. I think of us walking by McElwain Hall when
Oh
you
my
were
goodness.
telling me what you were telling me in a matter of fact way. It was confident. It was not condescending. You are lots of fun. You are full of truth, and you are empowering. And you will definitely sit in the back if allowed. Sit in the back and think all the things and have all the answers. And so I want to say, on behalf of all of the thousands of people that you've impacted in the industry, and the many even more people that you will impact, thank you for seeing the blind spot, for self-modifying and coming out of your shell, because you are amazing. And I just want to thank
First,
you.
thank you. I appreciate that. Of course, the whole imposter syndrome. Now I'm like, oh, stop. But no, I appreciate that. And I think I've grown into my own self and my own power as a woman, as an executive, as a leader. But yeah, it took time to embrace that. I had to get myself unstuck in a lot of ways. There were opportunities that I didn't lean into because out of fear, out of, well, they won't accept me. Well, I'm in a male dominated industry. Well, I'm the youngest in the room, all of the things. And it wasn't until I had to find my own confidence that I was able to step into that and say, you know what? You're either going to receive it or not. I have no control over that. I only have control over how I show up and what I say.
You only have control over how you show up and what you say. And I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of that's internal. It's an
Mhm.
inside job. Believe it or not, it's an inside job, and it might feel like it's not fair, because you might have gotten the way you are because of external circumstances. For example, you might have grown up in a culture that did not value your input, did not value your voice, did not encourage it. You might have grown up in for with the client that you gave the example of, you might have grown up in an era that pushed you to behave and react and respond a certain way, and it's become second nature. So all of that is external, and it's almost unfair to say that it's an inside job, that you have to do the work. If you get stuck on the fact that they hit you first, you will miss the fact that if you deal with the effect and the impact of their hit, regardless of the fact that they did it, if you will deal with you, you will come out your better self.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of external factors that come into play. I get it. But today, Dr. Hughes just gave us a couple of examples of courageous conversations.
Hmm.
It starts here, but it ends up in their lap, because we're going to coach you to a way to have that conversation. But they have the ball is now in your court. I've shown up. You also said that you're responsible for how you show up.
Hmm.
And it is easy to sit back and say they will never promote, they will never see me. I'm encouraging you, those of you listening, those of you watching, make them see you.
Yes.
There's a line in the Black Panther where his mom tells T'Challa, Show them who you are.
Yes.
I want you to be willing to let people tell you that you've got spinach in your teeth.
Mm.
Fix it and show them who you are. Dr. Hughes, before we leave, I'm wondering if you could just give the people a couple of recommendations, maybe a book you think every leader should read.
Mm. So, one of the books that has had such a profound impact on me, the title is Change Your Questions, Change Your Life.
Oh, yes.
Because we get the results we get because of the questions we are willing to ask or not willing to ask.
Mm,
Because questions lead to inquiry, inquiry leads to thought, thought leads to behavior, behavior leads to outcomes.
love that. So, outcomes, one daily habit that fosters growth.
One daily habit that fosters growth. I love the idea of affirmations. I mean, I pray, so that's my own personal thing, as well as just affirmations. Like,
Mhm.
what do I want to be true about today? What am I going to believe? What am I going to speak into my life today? So those affirmations, like you said, I do have something special inside of me that I can offer people. I am great. I have greatness in me. So yeah, those affirmations and telling yourself who you are, because you can't expect anybody else to believe who you are if you don't believe it yourself.
I wonder, do you believe who you are? Do you know who you are? Type it in the chat. Are you still figuring it out? I can imagine that I see you still figuring it out. I get it. I get it. It's important for you to identify these blind spots. I spent and wasted a lot of time defensively defending my blind spots
Mm,
because I thought they were me as opposed to behaviors I'd picked up.
mhm.
And when you are willing to do the work to get yourself unstuck, when you are willing to do the work to hear the feedback, that's work, hearing feedback.
Yes, it is.
And then the next level is now work on the feedback.
Right.
What would you say before we leave, what would you say about accountability in all of this? How important is it to have accountability?
It is critically important because if you don't have accountability, the change will never happen. So one of the other questions I like to ask people who I'm coaching is, who do you want to be?
Oh, I love that question.
How do you want people to experience you?
Mm-hmm.
And then the follow up is, how do you think they perceive you now? And how do you think they experience you now? Because if there's a gap, then that's area for us to work on. How do we make that true that what you want is what they are actually experiencing? And that's the work. That is the work that
That's
we need to do.
that's the work. That's the work. Final thoughts for our audience on it's time to get from stuck to soaring. Final thoughts from Dr. Fisher.
So you get from stuck to soaring. Again, self awareness is getting to know who you are at the core. What motivates you? What scares you? What fears do you have? What joys do you have? And when you know who you are, what your triggers are, it's a lot easier to then say, I'm going to improve. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to get better on this. Because the reality is, if you can own both the good and the bad of who you are, then you can own the progress as well. It's hard to make progress until you own where you're starting from, the starting point. So I would just encourage everybody, get a little bit more aware with who you are. Understand at the heart what drives you to certain behaviors, what your triggers are, and what you want people to believe about you, so that you can try to make that as true to form as possible, because everything starts with you. Your coaching starts with you. What you believe about yourself starts with you, and how people experience you starts with you. So get to know yourself. That way you can get unstuck.
Oh, I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for being on our show. I want to thank you for all of the nuggets that you dropped and even the transparency that you shared. I'm sure that this was impactful to our audience, and those of you that were impacted, go ahead and tell us in the notes. Again, those of you just listening, say it in your car, say it out loud of how you were impacted. And if you can do a voice note on your phone, put an action item in there. That
Yes.
is going to help this learning start to take root and remind you to take action. So Dr. Charity Hughes, who has stopped by, we want to thank you. And you'll see in the notes how you can connect with Dr. Hughes and follow her on all of her platforms and just continue to get the nuggets. Thank you again for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Hey, you, I was thinking about you. And you know what I was thinking? I'm thinking it is time for you to soar. I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast with Dr. Charity Hughes, who has let us know that it begins and ends with self-awareness. And it also means sometimes having courageous conversations. It means understanding your triggers, knowing where you are, understanding who you want to be, how you want to be experienced. Are you ready to do the work to get from stuck to soaring? If so, I've left my information in the bottom. You can let me know, click and have a little conversation. Let's see if you're a perfect candidate for the SOAR coaching program. If you'd like to connect with Dr. Fisher, her information is below. Click and follow her, and it is time for you to get unstuck. It is time for you to soar.